3 years at Blackwood had ground me down, like mud trampled by 1,000 feet. When he came to pick me up, his eyes were filled with revulsion, not until he saw the blood gushing from my neck, and the USB drive holding the truth he didn't know. I had only 5 days left to live, and the evil he himself had sown was now dragging everyone down to hell. When appeared with his bodyguards, the Blackwood was just letting out for the day. The men hid in the coal dust tunnels, whispering as the estate's luxury car passed by. Thorne bowed and scraped. Ethan, for the past 3 years, we've strictly followed your orders and severely disciplined Willow. She's very obedient now. If you say east, she wouldn't dare say west. Ethan nodded, satisfied. I was led out of the mine shaft. It was a scorching summer evening, yet I was still wearing the sweater I'd had on when I first arrived at Blackwood, standing miserably before Ethan. My cheeks were sunken, and I'd lost a lot of weight. Not long ago, several men had just left my bed. My legs ached terribly, and the moment my feet touched the ground, they buckled uncontrollably. I plummeted to the ground. The sharp gravel on the ground instantly cut my calf. I gasped in pain. Ethan, however, instinctively frowned. 3 years, and I thought you'd finally learned your lesson. I never imagined you'd remain so stubborn, always just acting vulnerable. Scarlett was bullied and beaten by you before. She got depression and still wasn't as pretentious as you. Thorne immediately smiled ingratiatingly. Ethan, if you're not satisfied with Willow, why not leave her here for continued discipline? I assure you, this time I'll make her completely subservient. Ethan fell silent. When he looked at me, his eyes held a gaze of scrutiny and consideration. He was actually considering whether to leave me here. I gazed at him, and my heart, already riddled with holes, still throbbed uncontrollably. It was as if a sharp dagger had plunged into my chest, twisting violently through my flesh. Blinking my dry eyes, I painfully pulled myself up, then knelt down in the same posture I'd used countless times serving the men in the mine. Ethan, this wretched dog knows her mistake. Please forgive me. My forehead hit the ground, the sharp stones digging painfully into my skin. Yet it was nowhere near as fierce or agonizing as the humiliation of having my spirit broken and my dignity trampled underfoot. Ethan looked somewhat surprised, clearly unaccustomed to my submissive demeanor. After all, I used to be nothing like this. Ethan reached out to help me up, but I flinched, instinctively recoiling. He grew annoyed and abruptly pushed me away. Willow, stop acting. Don't pretend someone abused you. My body was already weak, and with his forceful shove, I fell backward, crashing heavily onto the ground. My ankle made a sickening crack. I curled up in pain, unable to speak. The ground was covered in black coal dust, coating me entirely. My face and hair, which I had painstakingly cleaned to greet Ethan, were once again covered in grime. I was filthy and blackened, like a homeless madwoman. Ethan was stunned, not realizing how much damage his push had caused. He seemed about to explain something, but then a few coughs suddenly echoed from the car in the distance. Ethan frowned, his initial guilt turning to displeasure. Scarlett came to pick you up even while ill. She's been so good to you. How could you have the heart to bully and beat her? Now get up and apologize to her. I endured the pain, trembling as I struggled to my feet. 3 years ago, Scarlett accused me of being jealous at the engagement. She claimed that just because she'd spoken to Ethan a few extra times, I'd incited company employees to bully her. Scarlett revealed her injuries and sobbed uncontrollably at the engagement venue. Ethan was furious and immediately announced the cancellation of the wedding. He threw me into the Blackwood, a place that devours people whole, to fix my temper. But I had never done anything to harm Scarlett, so what was there to change? Swallowing the metallic taste in my throat, I limped towards the car. My leg was in too much pain. After just a few steps, I stumbled and fell again. My loose sweater slipped off my emaciated shoulders, revealing a large expanse of skin. The men in the mine tunnel erupted in lewd laughter. Ethan's face darkened, and he slapped me directly. Willow, have you no shame? Not even wearing undergarments in public? Who are you trying to seduce? No, that wasn't it. I clutched my clothes, a deep sadness in my heart. My undergarments had been torn to shreds within my first month here. In 3 years, I hadn't taken a single step outside the mine, so how could I possibly buy new ones? My predicament was clearly caused by these men, yet at this moment, they all scrutinized me with disdainful gazes, as if I were something inherently depraved. I bit my lips in humiliation, fighting back tears. Dragging my injured leg, I shuffled to the front of the car. As soon as I touched the car door, A woman's voice drifted out, "Ethan, have you picked up Willow yet?" The car door opened, revealing Scarlett in a designer cocktail dress, her skin fair, looking delicate and beautiful. When she saw me, she seemed startled, shrinking back with a timid expression. I, however, involuntarily trembled. Everyone said Scarlett was frail and kind. Even when she was bullied by me to the point of despair and near suicide, she never sought any revenge. Only I knew that the idea to throw me into Blackwood came from her. The humiliations I endured were at her command. My transformation into this state was all thanks to her. Suppressing the mockery and resentment within, I knelt numbly. "Scarlett, please forgive me. Every single mistake is mine. It was my vanity and malice, my bullying by association, that incited company employees to torment you. I deserve this. I deserve to die. I shouldn't have bullied you. Willow, what are you doing? Please get up. I'm just a secretary. How can you kneel before me?" Scarlett, like a frightened little rabbit, quickly moved to help me up, but the moment she touched my hand, she gasped and abruptly recoiled. Ethan's gaze sharpened, and he kicked me away. He then got into the car, urgently checking Scarlett. "Willow, you're a jinx. Look what you've done." Scarlett's allergic reaction started the moment you touched her. "You're filthy. You're not allowed in the car. Wrap yourself in a plastic bag and get in the trunk." My body was already at its limit of weakness, and with his kick, it felt like my ribs had broken. My face was pale with pain, but no one cared. The bodyguard stuffed me into a woven bag like cargo and tossed me into the trunk. In the darkness, Ethan's tender care for Scarlett became even clearer. I stared blankly, the tears I had held back for so long finally falling silently. It didn't matter. Before I left, the rural doctor who had secretly treated me told me my cervix was infected and eroded, and my kidneys were failing. Based on his medical expertise, I had at most 5 days left to live. In 5 days, I wouldn't have to endure this humiliation anymore. 5 days from now. "Ethan, even if you search every corner of Evergreen City, you won't find me, because by then, I'll be dead." It was 3 hours later when we returned to the estate. I had been curled up in the cramped trunk for so long that when my legs finally touched the ground, they were so numb I nearly fell. I instinctively gripped a nearby small tree, finally steadying myself. When saw this, she looked on the verge of tears. "Willow, I know you don't like me, but you can't damage my wisteria tree. Ethan and I planted this ourselves." Her eyes reddened, and tears instantly welled up. I froze, looking at the wisteria tree beside me. In my memory, this spot should have been the swing set Ethan built for me to make me happy, but now the swing was gone, and so was the Ethan who used to love me. The wisteria tree had only been briefly touched for support, and just a few insignificant flowers had fallen. Completely unprepared, Ethan rushed over and yanked me away from the tree. "Willow, I knew it. The moment you're back, you start bullying Scarlett. Let me tell you, even if I can't break off our engagement, you will never be the mistress of this Vance. Get back to your room. Just looking at you annoys me." I was thrown aside, my back hitting the meticulously arranged rose bush wall, causing a section of flowers and leaves to collapse. Scarlett bit her lip, sobbing uncontrollably. Ethan pulled her into his embrace to comfort her, while casting a cold, sidelong glance at me. "Scarlett has asthma. Are you happy now that you've made her cry and suffer? It seems you had it too good at the mine, which is why you're so reckless. Don't come for meals today, no. Not until after tomorrow." Hearing those words, my stomach instinctively cramped in pain. At mine, all the work was physically demanding, and withholding food was the simplest way to control people. After being thrown into Blackwood, Thorne was relatively respectful towards me for the first few days. But once he realized Ethan didn't even bother to call, he became convinced I was a worthless, foolish woman. I was kept deep within the mine, becoming a tool for the men's desires. Countless suicide attempts only resulted in repeated beatings and conditioning to break me. Thorne once withheld food from me for 10 consecutive days. He would only grant me a single cup of water each day. I became skeletal, and my stomach illness worsened. During the worst times, the stomach acid felt like it was burning through my intestines, making me writhe on the ground in agony. Ethan and I grew up together. He clearly knew that I would get stomach pains if I didn't eat. Feeling my back bleeding from the rose thorns, my face was numb. I obediently lowered my head. "Yes, Ethan." The closet around the corner of the villa was my lodging for the night. It was dark and cramped, cluttered with miscellaneous items, and a single bed was tucked into a corner. Martha secretly told me that ever since Ethan drove me away 3 years ago, Scarlett had moved into the estate. It was publicly claimed that I had acted viciously, and the estate needed to compensate her. When was still alive, he cherished me the most. Even though I didn't visit often, he still reserved the largest and best room in all of the estate for me. But after Scarlett moved in, Ethan gave my room to her. I quickly asked Martha where my old belongings had gone. The master packed it all up and threw it in here, see? After left, I suppressed the pain in my body and began searching through the clutter. The first thing I found was a teddy bear. The doll's eyes were missing, its pretty little dress was stained, its belly was ripped open by someone, and the stuffing was spilling out. I remembered Ethan's gentle expression when he gave it to me. He had said, "Willow, you're most afraid of the dark when I'm not here. Let this teddy bear stay with you instead of me." But later, he threw me into Blackwood for 3 whole years. I struggled and cried hysterically in the darkness, but he never looked back at me. Tears fell, and I quickly wiped them away. I then found a crumpled school jacket. I remembered coming home from school that year, when my period suddenly started and stained my pants red. Boys on the road pointed and whispered about me. I hung my head, mortified, but then suddenly a jacket was wrapped around my waist. I looked up to see young Ethan, a blinding fierceness in his eyes. "Whoever laughed at you just now, I'll smash their faces." Scene after scene flashed before me, ultimately leaving only the darkness of the room, but it didn't matter anymore. The current Willow had long grown accustomed to the dark, and in the daily humiliation, had lost all sense of shame and sensitivity. My tears fell harder, but my hands didn't stop moving. The pain from my broken ribs and sprained calf made my movements especially slow. My body was severely depleted. With every breath, I could feel the metallic taste of blood rising in my throat. My forehead was burning, and my vision gradually blurred. Just as I was about to give out, my hand finally touched it, my USB drive. It contained the evidence I hadn't had time to give Ethan, proving Scarlett's elaborate deception. After finding the USB drive, I couldn't hold on any longer and fainted from the pain onto the bed. In my haze, the utility door suddenly pushed open. A figure strode in. I thought I saw Ethan. He was in a sharp suit, a clean white shirt, chin slightly raised, looking like the proud young Ethan I remembered. I suddenly remembered the first time I saw him. When I was a child, my grandfather brought me to the estate to visit Henry, his old comrade in arms, and was sitting in the gazebo, playing chess with Henry. He made a pinky promise with me then, saying that since we had a childhood engagement, he would grudgingly be responsible for me for life. But later, when Scarlett framed me at the engagement, in front of so many people, Ethan pushed me to the ground without hesitation. "Willow, Scarlett used to say you didn't like her, and I tolerated it, dismissing it as petty squabbles between women, but this time you've gone too far, actually inciting company employees to bully her just because you're jealous. You didn't really think that just because Henry made me marry you before he passed, you'd truly transcend your status and become superior, did you? Bullying by association, you're disgusting." In less than a day, all the employees who had made life difficult for Scarlett were fired, and before I could give the evidence I found to Ethan, I was sent to Blackwood. There, I was treated like livestock, subjected to repeated forced pregnancies and their brutal terminations. My body was completely broken. "Willow, stop playing dead in bed. I know you're awake." Ethan, his face cold, carried a thermos food container, its aromas wafting through the air. "Scarlett had nightmares because of you again. I should have known better than to bring you back." He impatiently kicked away the teddy bear. "As long as you genuinely admit your wrongdoings and kowtow step by step from here to apologize to Scarlett, I'll give you food. Haven't you always wanted to marry into the estate? After you apologize, I might even let you stay at the estate forever." I parted my lips, my mind clouded by fever, and for the first time, I didn't obey him. "I don't want to stay at the estate. I want to go home, Henry. I haven't seen him in 3 years. Ethan's face darkened. He wanted to drag me out, but he was disgusted by the dirty, smelly dust and sweat clinging to me. "You ungrateful wretch. If you're so defiant, then don't eat a single bite. Starve to death for all I care." My lips trembled, and tears streamed down. "Fine, in 4 more days, I'll be exactly as you wish." Ethan, true to his word, never came to see me again. I curled up on the bed, sleeping for a day and a night. I was drenched in sweat, and the wounds on my back and calves had reopened from my unconscious tossing and turning in my sleep. Blood mixed with sweat, soaking the quilt. During that time, A maid knocked on my door and brought me a light, soft silk duvet. I was taken aback, but the maid told me that Ethan had built a new luxury estate for Scarlett in the city outskirts, fully furnished and equipped. Scarlett had replaced all her belongings with new ones, and this was something she no longer wanted. I lowered my eyelids, saying nothing more. The third day, my wounds not only hadn't healed but were showing signs of festering and oozing pus, swollen and itchy. The silk duvet had stuck to my wounds, and I gritted my teeth, pulling for a long time before finally separating them, but doing so had broken the scabs again. Though the wounds weren't severe, the bleeding wouldn't stop. I lay on the bed, icy cold, feeling like I was truly on the verge of death, but before I died, I had to see Henry. Henry was robust. 3 years ago, when Scarlett caused a scene at my engagement, he had wielded his cane to prevent Ethan from harming me. The old man had always demanded to see the surveillance footage, wanting to prove my innocence. Unfortunately, he had no power or influence. Before the estate after Henry's passing, he was utterly insignificant. Ethan had sent me away secretly, behind Henry's back. Henry didn't know where I had gone, and in these 3 years, I hadn't sent him a single message. He must have been frantic searching for me. On the 4th day, I no longer had the strength to even move. Martha, seeing my pitiful state, secretly snuck in with medicine and bread. While I was ravenously eating, she quickly removed my clothes to apply medication. Martha stroked my skeletal body, tears welling up. How could the young be so cruel? What suffering have you endured all these years? Willow, if it's too much, just escape. Her eyes glimmered. I'm on duty in the early morning. Everyone will be asleep then, and I'll open the back gate for you. Live a good life from now on, and never come back. I forced myself to muster some energy. I begged her to help me find a clean set of clothes and some makeup. That night, I spent 2 hours thoroughly cleaning myself, sitting before the mirror. I carefully concealed the ashen pallor and dark circles under my eyes. I changed into clean clothes and waited quietly for midnight. I lay there wide awake until midnight. Not until the small west-facing window in the utility revealed the moon did I painfully pull myself up. I pushed the door open and stumbled out. The estate's back gate was indeed not fully locked. A gentle push opened it. I forced myself to run out, and when I looked back, Martha was standing at the doorway, watching me leave. The night wind was strong, cutting into me like knives. My body, after countless miscarriages, was extremely sensitive to cold. With every gust of wind, it felt like shards of ice were piercing my very bones. Every step was a searing, bone-deep pain. I could feel my body reaching its limit, but I couldn't stop. If I did, I wouldn't be able to move at all. I don't remember how long I walked before I returned to Old Road, where I grew up. I only remember falling countless times along the way. My knees bruised and bleeding, blood streaming down my calves. By the time I reached the alley entrance, every step left a bloody footprint. At 6 in the morning, the sun rose, and steam billowed from the freshly steamed buns at the breakfast shop. I arrived at the old building, but the old building from my memories was long gone, replaced by a brand new, clean commercial street. I stood rooted to the spot, at a loss. Willow, is that really you? Where have you been all these years? Henry has been frantic looking for you. Doris, my former neighbor, stood with a grocery basket, her face filled with shock. My throat tightened, and tears fell. Doris saw the injuries on my leg and helped me to the local. Ever since you disappeared 3 years ago, Henry has been desperately searching for you. Traveling through all the surrounding cities, eventually, he fell ill, and his money ran out. So he started earning money by driving a beat-up delivery truck and putting up missing person posters, but the old man was just too old. After 2 years, he couldn't drive it anymore. That's when the old building was demolished, and everyone moved to new. Henry was afraid you wouldn't find your way home if you came back, so he insisted on returning to this street every day. Waiting from dawn till dusk, I was already in tears, sobbing as I pressed her about Henry's whereabouts. Doris looked reluctant. Willow, if only you had come back sooner. The old man, he was buried the day before yesterday. My ears rang, and I stared blankly, my eyes wide. In an instant, I lost all strength and ability to think. No, that's impossible. Henry was so healthy. How could he die? He hadn't even seen me come home. How could he die? My nails dug deep into my palms, but I felt no pain, letting the blood flow freely. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm going to find Henry. I stumbled to my feet, but Doris forcefully pressed me back down. Willow, listen to me. It won't hurt to wait a moment. Let's treat your wounds first. The pharmacy assistant cut open my pants at the knee, revealing my legs covered in knife wounds, cigarette burns, and bruises. She gasped in shock, about to call the police, but suddenly appeared from nowhere. He violently pushed her aside and grabbed my collar. Willow, are you trying to ruin me before you're satisfied? Does Vance lack food or clothes for you? You run out here to play the victim. How will others see me? If corporation stock fluctuates, can you afford to pay for it? Scarlett was right. You're a jinx. You can't stand to see me doing well. Scarlett rushed over, her eyes red. Willow, Martha told me everything. You left because you don't like me, right? I'll move out right away, please. Don't be angry with Ethan anymore. In a corner unseen by others, her sharp, manicured nail dug into my wound and twisted it violently. I cried out in pain and shoved her away. Scarlett crashed into the medicine cabinet, her fair skin immediately reddening in a patch. Ethan was utterly enraged, using all his strength to kick me in the chest. I flew backward, shattering the glass door of the local. Glass shards clattered to the ground, cutting my neck. I, however, seemed to feel nothing, painfully crawling out of the local. Henry. Willow is disloyal. Only now returning. Don't go too far. Willow will come find you soon. Seeing me try to escape again, Ethan, enraged, grabbed a solid wood chair and hurled it at me. I trembled all over from the pain. I could no longer staunch the wound on my neck, letting the blood gush out. Willow, lying there playing dead won't do you any good. Ethan's eyes were bloodshot. Ignoring attempts to stop him, he rushed over, ready to slap me, but the next second, he clearly saw the grotesque gash on my neck, and his mind reeled. Willow, quick, call an ambulance. Scarlett stood by, biting her lip. Ethan, please don't be angry. Willow's bleeding so much, she must be using a fake blood pack again, right? It's my fault too. Last time I saw her buying a fake blood pack online, I couldn't stop her. I've caused you trouble again. Ethan, please scold me. Ethan suddenly looked up, staring intently at her, his voice incredibly hoarse. Are you saying you personally saw Willow buying a fake blood pack online? Scarlett froze, then smiled cautiously. Yes. Why, Ethan? Enough. Willow doesn't even have a phone. How could she buy a fake blood pack online? Ethan roared, his hand covering my neck, trembling. Her throat was cut by glass. She's barely clinging to life. And at a time like this, you're still slandering her. Scarlett leaned closer and glanced at me, then immediately shrieked in terror. She trembled and collapsed to the ground, sobbing. I'm sorry, Ethan. I truly didn't know Willow would try to kill herself. The ambulance arrived. Ethan, his face ghostly pale, carried me and rushed into the ambulance, never once looking back at Scarlett. Scarlett watched the receding ambulance, her hatred deepening. That wretched Willow. After being used by countless men at Blackwood, why did she shamelessly return to steal her man? Ethan must have been fooled by Willow's pitiful appearance. As long as Ethan knows Willow is a low-class whore, he'll be disgusted, and the position of Mrs. Vance will still be hers. A faint smile finally appeared on Scarlett's face. I was taken to the emergency room, and Ethan sat forlornly in the hallway. He buried his face in his hands, nervously pounding his head. How could this happen? How had it come to this? He had only wanted to turn Willow back into his former docile, sensible girlfriend. He never intended to hurt her. Ethan recalled my dilated pupils and pale face just before I was wheeled into the emergency room. His heart ached so much he couldn't breathe. What had he done? What exactly had he done? The rescue operation lasted a day and a night, and Ethan waited, wide-eyed, in front of the operating room for just as long. A day later, the emergency room doors finally opened. The doctor's expression was grim. The patient has multiple stab wounds, burns, and lacerations on her body, and her leg muscles have atrophied, suggesting prolonged abuse and confinement, sir. What is your relationship to the patient? Scarlett quickly interjected. Ethan is Willow's ex-boyfriend. Doctor, we're more interested in Willow's old injuries. I remember she had many bruises, especially in private areas. In his peripheral vision, Ethan's face had already changed. Scarlett, somewhat triumphant, tried to continue, but suddenly, a slap sent her face sideways, a sharp smack. Ethan's eyes were bloodshot, and he gasped, "Shut up. What kind of dirt are you trying to throw on Willow now?" Scarlett was stunned by the slap. When she regained her composure and saw Ethan's ferocious expression, she couldn't help but cry. I'm not slandering Willow. She's been ruined by men for ages, Ethan. If you don't believe me, come see for yourself." Ignoring the doctor's protests, she forcefully dragged Ethan into the emergency room. My clothes were ripped open, and those shameful marks were laid bare before Ethan's eyes. He froze. "Ethan, do you believe me now? Willow was slept with by men every day at Blackwood. She must have caught an illness. You can't like her anymore." Ethan's hand trembled as he carefully touched my scarred body. My severed throat had been stitched up, and I was in a coma, but the moment I felt a man's touch, I instinctively began to tremble. The doctor angrily ushered them out. Scarlett clutched Ethan's hands, her eyes misty with tears. "Ethan, was I too harsh just now? I was just so anxious. I didn't want to see you get hurt by Willow again." Ethan, however, suddenly laughed. Tears sprang to his eyes as he laughed. Bending over, his entire face flushed with intense emotion, he seized Scarlett by the neck, his eyes suppressing a burgeoning madness. "How did you know about Willow's experiences at Blackwood?" Scarlett's face instantly turned ashen. Ethan locked Scarlett away. He seemed to snap, ordering his assistant to uncover what I had endured at Blackwood for the past 3 years. The investigation results came back quickly. Ethan looked at the horrifying words on the documents, his throat feeling as if he had swallowed 10,000 steel needles, constantly filling with the taste of blood. Lying comatose in the hospital bed, I let out a piercing shriek. "No, don't come closer. I didn't bully Scarlett. I really didn't. Henry, I miss you so much, Henry. Please take me away." Ethan's knees buckled, and he slid to the floor. He recalled seeing me at Blackwood for the first time. I was so gaunt and emaciated that when I stumbled, my clothes slipped off my shoulders. Back then, he had cursed at me, saying I wasn't wearing undergarments and was trying to seduce men. Ethan's heart twisted in agony. He tore at the thick documents with his hands, trembling with regret. What exactly had that bastard, done? He had thrown his childhood sweetheart into Blackwood, allowing those beasts to ruin her like this. The doctor said that even with the best medication, my lifespan would be significantly reduced. Ethan, eyes red-rimmed, lay slumped beside my hospital bed, apologizing repeatedly, his voice choked with sobs. "I'm sorry, Willow. I'm so sorry. I didn't know those beasts dared to treat you like that. And she dared to collude with Thorne to harm you. She deceived me. I didn't genuinely want to hurt you. As for Scarlett, you hurt her before too, so can't we just call it even? I'll marry you in the future. You'll still be the sole mistress of the estate." Ethan's tears splattered onto the back of my hand. In my coma, I suddenly shivered violently, as if stimulated by some terrible memory. The USB drive I carried dropped from the bedside table, landing at Ethan's feet. He picked it up and, as if possessed, inserted it into a computer. The screen displayed a surveillance video, with the timestamp in the bottom right corner showing 3 years ago. In the video, Scarlett furtively entered an alley and handed a suitcase to 2 women. "Take the money and stay far away. Don't come back to Evergreen City, understand?" The 2 women weighed the suitcase, looking somewhat displeased. "Scarlett, we helped you put on a show to push out Ethan's legitimate fiancé, and this is all you give us?" "Exactly. We even lost our jobs at Vance to help you. Are we still good friends?" Scarlett waved her hand, looking impatient. All right. Just wait until I figure out a way to completely ruin Willow's reputation. Once I've got Ethan, you'll get your share of benefits." The video's progress bar hadn't even reached halfway. But Ethan couldn't watch anymore. He blankly closed the computer, stumbled several times, and finally managed to get to his feet, swaying. "Willow, you must really hate me, don't you?" Ethan forced a smile, uglier than a cry. "I was blind before. But I'll never make a mistake like that again." Ethan left the hospital. No one knew where he went. They only knew that when he reappeared, it was a week later, when the police led him out of the estate, covered in blood. He looked deranged. Facing the reporters' cameras and media interviews, Ethan both cried and laughed. "Willow, did you see? That wretch Scarlett has been tortured and dismembered by me. She slandered you, made you suffer so much. She deserved to die. Willow, can you forgive me? I truly know I was wrong." I heard the nurses gossiping during rounds that Ethan's case had shocked all of Evergreen City. Ethan, the dignified CEO of Vance, worth billions, not only secretly and illegally funded the Blackwood, an inhumane black industry, but he was also a murderer. He blew up the Blackwood, causing the tunnels to collapse and all the men to be crushed to death. He also imprisoned his secretary in the basement and, with a twisted madness, tortured and dismembered her. The screams lasted for 3 whole days. The entire basement was covered in blood. Not until the putrid smell nauseated the villa's maids were Ethan's atrocities discovered. I heard that because the social impact of this case was so severe, the investigation into Ethan proceeded exceptionally quickly. I remained utterly unmoved. 6 months later, my old injuries had mostly healed. On the day I was discharged, a prisoner who had attempted suicide in confinement was suddenly brought to the hospital from outside. As the doctors wheeled the patient past me, that person suddenly clutched my hand, agitated. "Willow, forgive me." After 6 months apart, Ethan had become almost barely recognizable due to his drastic weight loss. A grotesque gash ran across his throat, and bright red blood continuously choked out from his mouth. I heard he'd gotten into a fight during his time at the correctional, and a broken meal tray had caused the wound. By a strange twist of fate, it was the same type of injury as mine. I calmly pulled his hand away, as if discarding a stranger. Ethan's expression shattered, and his eyes completely lost their light. That night, news of the death of Ethan, CEO of Vance, exploded on trending news through various media reports. Netizens who had followed the case expressed endless sighs, believing he had got what he deserved. With help, I found Henry's grave. I placed a bouquet of yellow chrysanthemums before Henry's tombstone. "Henry, Willow is home." I leaned against Henry's tombstone, closed my eyes, and let tears fall. The mountain breeze wafted, and the chrysanthemums swayed gently, like my unending longing for Henry.